Welcome to the Ada K Show. I'm your host, Ada K, and I am a criminal justice major. I am also a deaf courtroom commentator, breaking down the gripping courtroom drama while providing full ASL interpretation, making justice accessible to everyone. Grab a cup of Java and let's dive in. And don't forget, comment, like, and subscribe. And if you love this channel, please become a member. Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm back. We're back. We're back. Back. I know it's one of them crazy days, and I forgot to get my coffee. Decaf, that is. Yes, I am drinking decaf coffee today. I am. Trust me. I don't want no caffeine this late at night. No caffeine tonight. I want to go to sleep. Although I normally can go to sleep after having caffeine, but lately I haven't been able to go to sleep after having caffeine. All right, so we are going into day 11. I've got to get my video up. I was filling out my acceptance application for my master's program. We're going to get up day 11. Of the Ian Mitcham trial, day 11. We're going to get it up and running. We're going to zoom through that. Somebody else is doing it too. Boy, Ian Mitcham, you know, that was really frustrating that we were not able to watch Ian Mitcham's court date live like we should have been able to all this time. I'm looking. I got to go to channel 10, Phoenix. Ian Mitcham. Come on, guys. Give up the ghost. Where is it? Okay, I got to look in Discord. June, I can't find it. I don't know if I have a mod with me or not. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever is with me. Thank you so much for being here. Glad to have you. Y'all are a blessing. I hope y'all had a good New Year's. Here we go. Got it. How is it only 38 minutes? That's odd, y'all. All righty, let me scooch it back. There it is. More than 38 minutes. Okay, we have a new witness on the stand. I got music playing somewhere. Why is there music playing over the court? Can't play it yet, guys. Okay, guys, they had court going, hello, sweet Magnolia. Hello, Miss June. You're not in back window. There you, Angela is. Bro. Had enough coffee for this. You wouldn't, June, I couldn't even be live 5 minutes. I knew you were going to do that. Y'all, this is June's Maximo. He's like, bro, I haven't enough coffee for this shit. It's night. I can do that. So, hello, everybody. We're getting into day 11, and I finally got it up and running. They had some music playing over the court, so I had to find out where it stopped. June, are you going to take it down? No? You're just going to leave it up? Yeah, she'd rather see me, but all right, I might as well show you. Here's is this one. This is Angela's dog's defense rest, literally on the grass. That's our new defense rest. And here's another Maximo objection. Maximo stealing the show. So we have some fun ones. If you have lovely pets that you would like for me to use and feature, please, please. Oh, don't worry about it, Angela. If you got some pets that you would like for me to have fun, you got a cute pet pic, come to our Discord channel and put it in our Discord. There's our Discord key for a moment, because when we start trial, I'm going to have to take it down. It conflicts with my dying. There's your Ian Mitcham. Okay, let me get everything together. Let me get Ian Mitcham up and going. Wait a minute. Why is it not showing up? It's not showing up. Why isn't it showing up? Shouldn't be. It should be in Chrome tab. Okay, I'm just going to have to do this, y'all. Hold up. For some reason, it's not showing up. So the gremlins are attacking. The gremlins are attacking. Okay, let me get everything closed up. I got to get everything closed up. The gremlins are here. The gremlins are here. So let me get this back up here and going. Get it over here. Okay, here we go.
There was any type of struggle per se in that room, whereas in the living room, the couch was not looked like it was in its normal position. There was debris on the floor, staining throughout the scene. I didn't see that kind of activity in the bedroom.
With respect to the bedroom, though, you also mentioned as you walked through the home, do you recall testifying about seeing spray over throughout the house?
I do, yes.
And describing that?
Yes.
Was the bedroom, the master bedroom, one of the areas where you observed the spray over?
I did notice it on a dresser. If I believe correctly, it was a dresser that I saw the overspray on.
So when you were describing disturbed, you were simply referring to the furniture and the state of other things in the room versus that?
Disturbed, yes, and meaning it didn't seem to be signs of a struggle per se.
Okay. And then I believe the last question that I have is, I just wanted to clarify this. You mentioned that you developed the PMH profile, and after you had determined that it did not belong to, or after you excluded Alex and Ed Pfeiffer and Allison, since she was female, from that PMH profile, you mentioned that you then uploaded it into the CODIS database. Do you recall that portion of your testimony?
Yes.
And I think you talked about at some point the profile was put into a state database, a national database, and Interpol. Do you recall that portion of your testimony?
Yes.
Once that profile was put into any of those databases, were you ever notified that it had hit on any particular person, or did you get any results back, I guess is the best way to say?
No, we did not receive any notification of a hit.
I don't have anything additional. Thank you.
Okay. And cross-examination, Mr. Kirchler, whenever you're ready.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to talk to you about what you did in this case and your role, okay?
Okay.
So first of all, you're a scientist, correct?
Yes,
You have a bachelor's degree.
correct.
You have a master's degree.
Yes.
You've authored a few papers.
Co-authored, correct, yes.
We talked about the paper that you co-authored about DNA mixtures, correct?
Yes, it involved mixtures.
And when I say a scientist, you're a forensic scientist, correct?
Yes,
And you work in a lab,
correct.
and while you're employed by the Scottsdale Police Department, or the city of Scottsdale, I should say, you're not actually a sworn officer, correct?
Correct,
You're a scientist.
correct.
Your job is to be independent in your findings, correct?
Correct,
You try not to have any bias.
correct.
You use, for lack of a better word, formal measures, correct?
Are you talking about procedures?
Tests.
Yes.
You have machines.
Instruments, yes.
And you're able to basically report the data that you find, correct?
Correct,
There is some interpretation, correct?
yes.
And that's part of your expertise because of your education, correct?
Correct,
And you talked earlier about being the DNA technical leader, correct?
yes.
And you're a supervisor,
Correct,
and you're in charge of the quality assurance parts of that, correct?
of the forensic biology unit, yes, I am.
And you have to follow protocols by the ANAB standards to remain accredited, correct?
Correct,
You told us that you were an ISO 17025 DNA lab, correct?
that's the standards that we are accredited to, correct,
So in that, you follow those protocols.
correct,
And that you talked about, you have to follow the procedures. So it's standard across the board, correct?
the standards from ISO 17025, yes, we are required to follow those.
So if you went to another lab in another city who was also accredited or following those standards, they would roughly do the same procedures, right?
Um, well, sometimes those standards are fairly general, so procedures, depending on what you're talking about, if you're talking about an extraction procedure, those may vary lab to lab.
And it also depends about the software that you might have.
Correct,
For instance, you guys, you talked briefly about things, how they were done in 2015, how they might have changed in 2025, 10 years later.
yes,
You have different software.
yes,
For instance, StarMix.
correct,
You were running like version 3 back in 2015, correct?
yes.
And now you're probably at 11 or 12.
Actually, no, we're still on the same version of 3.2 or 2.3.08, actually.
Your job is to make sure that you report accurate results, correct?
That's correct.
And today we're talking about what you did at the scene and then that development of the profile from PMH, okay?
Okay,
When you testify again, I'll ask you more questions about other stuff that you did, okay?
okay,
So, as we just talked about, you went to the scene one time, correct?
that's correct.
And you were working as a team with law enforcement and crime scene specialists there, correct?
Yes,
And I mean that you were walking around with folks like Detective Heinzelman
that's correct.
and maybe Kat Palma,
Correct.
and you were offering your expertise in those 12 or 2016s that you thought may be important, taking in consideration the other people as well.
Correct.
But you're part of the crime lab, independent of, say, like a Detective Heinzelman, correct?
That's correct.
And you were there with Chris Cano,
Correct.
and she was your boss at the time.
Yes,
And you and her worked together with the other law enforcement crime scene specialists to collect and document the items that were identified, correct?
I believe the 26 stains, there wasn't any crime scene personnel involved in the collection of those items. We collected those 26 items ourselves. But crime scene did collect other items of evidence at the scene.
And your job in this case was really the collection of what could contain biological evidence, correct?
That's correct.
And when you looked at those 26 stains, you thought that they may contain biological evidence, correct?
Correct.
You can't see DNA with the naked eye.
No.
It's something that you have an educated guess best, correct?
As to whether an item contains DNA?
Yes.
Yes.
I want to talk about some of the terminology that we've heard. When you're looking for biological evidence or something that might contain biological evidence, the term that most scientists are using today is trace evidence, correct?
Containing biological evidence, I don't consider that necessarily trace evidence. Trace evidence, my understanding is that it contains low levels of DNA.
And we talked about, I heard the term touch DNA. And that's kind of a misnomer, correct?
Yes, and when we first were able to detect trace levels of DNA in the field, it was often referred to as touch DNA because it was usually from someone handling or touching an item. However, I prefer the term today as trace DNA because the source of that DNA is not known. It doesn't necessarily mean it came from handling of an item.
And you don't want to testify in any way that would suggest the activity, correct, of which the DNA was deposited, let's say.
Activity meaning as far as how the DNA got transferred there.
Correct.
Correct.
And scientists use this hierarchy of propositions. You've heard of that?
Yes.
And as a scientist, and even in the protocols that you have, you're not supposed to testify as to the offense level. Did somebody do X, Y, and Z that was a crime, correct?
I don't know that that's in a standard, but yes, we do not report out whether or not how the DNA got there, an activity level type of conclusion.
And that's actually the second one in that hierarchy of propositions. The activity level is, the act at which that or the how it got there, correct? You don't testify to that.
No.
And what your job is to talk about the source, correct?
That's correct.
And that means that you can identify if there's a profile there or not, correct? Or DNA there or not, I should say.
Typically source meaning what the source of the DNA is.
You can sometimes say the composition. For instance, we talked about certain tests that you have that could identify whether or not a substance is blood, correct?
That's correct.
And we talked about a couple of tests that the Scottsdale Crime Lab did back in 2015. We talked about the Castlemeyer test, correct?
Correct.
And that's a presumption of blood, correct?
Correct.
And that's a test that is been validated, correct?
What do you mean invalidated?
It's a test that's standardized across that people have found that the science backs it up. Let's say the science backs it up,
It's-
that there's a presumptive test, correct?
Correct. And our lab did validation studies to confirm the use of that test.
And when you say validation studies, tell me about that real quick.
Validation is required for a new procedure, although this technically is a serology procedure and not a DNA procedure. The validation process is a process that we use in the lab to verify that the process, the method and the reagents are working as expected. So there's studies that are performed to make sure that the test is working as expected in our laboratory, in our setting with our reagents.
And we also talked about the hematrace, which is also a blood test, correct?
It's a confirmatory blood test, yes.
And that's also been gone through those validation processes.
Correct.
There's also tests for semen, correct?
That's correct.
And saliva.
Correct.
I should have said seminal fluid, right?
Well, are you talking about a presumptive test or a confirmatory test? Because there is a confirmatory test for the presence of semen, which is the microscopic test for spermatozoa.
And those tests are validated too.
That's correct. But I should clarify that our laboratory back in 2015 did not have a saliva test in use at that time.
And when we're talking about DNA, you mentioned that it could be in blood, it could be in semen, or could be in saliva, skin cells, correct?
Correct.
And even dandruff can have DNA in it.
It's skin cells, so yes.
And when we talk about DNA, the tests have come a long way, correct?
From when DNA originated, yes.
It used to be that you needed a larger amount of DNA to detect it, correct?
That's correct.
And now we're in the microscopic, correct?
DNA's always been microscopic, but we're talking about very small amounts of DNA are now needed in order to obtain a DNA profile.
We were talking picograms and nanograms, correct?
That's correct.
And those are like, if you had a grain of salt, it's even smaller than that, correct?
Yes, there's a billion nanograms in 1 gram. So we're talking about you can't see it with the naked eye.
But you can get a full profile from something that small, correct?
That's correct.
And you testified earlier that you wouldn't make a conclusion about something just by looking at it, correct? A stain, I should say.
As to what the source of the DNA is, that's correct.
You could make note of the color,
Correct.
make note of the size,
Correct.
the location,
Yes.
the surface,
Yes.
and maybe even the shape.
Correct.
And those observations kind of dictates what decisions you're going to make in how you collect that, correct?
That's correct.
And it could be whether you're going to do a serology test on it, correct?
Correct.
And you testified earlier in this case that you did blood. That was the test that the Scottsdale crime lab had. I should say 2 tests, correct?
That's correct.
You had the Castlemeyer, which is the presumptive, correct?
That's correct.
And the hematrace, which is the confirmatory.
Correct.
And we talked about how you get a sample from something, correct?
Yes.
And you told us about the Integra swabs just a few minutes ago.
Yes.
In fact, I'm going to show you what's marked as 661 and 660 for 661. And we can see on the bottom of that page that, well, maybe we can't see that yet. I know it's a little distorted, but that brown part at the bottom of the page, that's part of the swab, correct?
It appears to be the stick of the swab, the handle.
Okay. And you have, when you take a swab, you have 2 swabs that you can use, correct?
Yeah, I can use as many swabs as needed to swab the stain.
Generally speaking, you use a wet and a dry swab though for a stain like PMH, correct?
For PMH, no, not necessarily. I might just use a wet swab. But there is a wet, dry swab procedure that I would do for other type of samples. But for a stain that appears to be liquid, I would use a wet one and a swab moistened with sterilized water and swab it that way and not necessarily take a dry swab.
And when we talk about PMH, I think you keep mentioning that it appeared to be a liquid. It wasn't actually wet when you were there, correct?
Correct, it appeared to be dry.
I'm showing you part of the PowerPoint, the swab from the cluster near the chair PMH. It appeared to be dry. So you used a distilled water and got the end of the swab wet, correct?
The entire swab portion, yes, wet.
And then you took that swab and you rubbed it through those cluster, let's call it, correct?
Correct.
And you do that to a point where you are able to pick up whatever's on that surface, correct?
Correct.
And that may be the brown stuff that we see here,
Correct.
and anything that's above it or below it, correct?
Correct.
Whatever's on the floor, your goal is to just pick that up.
Correct.
And when you look at something and you do the analysis on it, you can't tell me where the DNA came from other than it came from this area, correct?
Are you speaking specifically on the swab
Or
or?
not on the swab, but on the floor itself. So what I'm saying is, you know, when you swab this area, whatever biological material you were able to obtain came from the area.
That's correct.
It might be within those brown spots, correct?
Correct.
It might be underneath those brown spots.
Correct.
It might be on top of those brown spots.
Correct.
The DNA might not have anything to do with those brown spots.
That's possible.
And your role is to just say, here's what the results were from the analysis that I did. And here we have a DNA profile, correct?
That's correct.
Your job is not to say how PMH got there.
Correct.
And you can't say when it got there.
Correct.
And to reiterate, you do the testing and provide the results.
Correct.
I want to talk to you about how much DNA is actually needed to obtain a full profile. Okay?
Okay.
The kits that you use for STR have 23 locations, correct?
Technically 24, but yes.
And not a lot of DNA is necessary to develop a full profile. You just testified to that, correct?
That's correct.
But you also testified that too much DNA is not good, correct?
That's correct.
And too little is not too good.
Correct. You might not get a full profile.
You hope to get somewhere between 0.8 and 1 nanogram, is that correct?
Ideally, yes.
And we talked about that's microscopic.
Oh, yes.
And you can't see that with the naked eye.
Correct.
So on the 18th, when you arrive at that house or at the house, your job is to just go through and look at stuff and then try to collect anything that could contain biological evidence, correct?
Yes, that was my role that night and into the next day.
And your job and it's an important case. Uh, You want to make sure that you don't bring any DNA into the scene, correct?
Correct,
We call that contamination sometime.
correct.
And you use some type of protection, correct?
Correct.
In this case, I think that you said you did not have a Tyvek suit on that night, correct?
I don't believe that I did, no.
But you had booties,
Correct,
and those went over your shoes, and each time you left, you took them off, correct?
correct,
You went outside, they got taken off, and you put new ones on.
correct.
You didn't recycle them.
That's correct.
And then you had gloves.
That's correct.
And we've heard from
Why is cord disappearing? Why? That's the second time that's happened today because I haven't pushed the button. I didn't push the button, y'all. I did not push the button. I roll it a little bit. Could you hear it or is it gone?
Correct, correct.
and that may
I'm reading the
be brown spot that
transcript.
we see here,
Correct,
and anything that's above it or below it, correct?
correct,
Whatever's on the floor, your goal is to just pick that up.
correct.
And when you look at something and you do the analysis on it, you can't tell me where the DNA came from other than it came from this area, correct?
Are you speaking specifically on the swab
Or
or?
not on the swab, but on the floor itself. So what I'm saying is, you know, when you swab this area, whatever biological material you were able to obtain came from the area.
That's correct,
It might be within those brown spots, correct?
correct,
It might be underneath those brown spots.
correct,
It might be on top of those brown spots.
correct.
The DNA might not have anything to do with those brown spots.
That's possible.
And your role is to just say, here's what the results were from the analysis that I did. And here we have a DNA profile, correct?
That's correct.
Your job is not to say how PMH got there.
Correct,
And you can't say when it got there.
correct,
And to reiterate, you do the testing and provide the results.
correct.
I want to talk to you about how much DNA is actually needed to obtain a full profile. Okay?
Okay,
The kits that you use for STR have 23 locations, correct?
technically 24, but yes,
And not a lot of DNA is necessary to develop a full profile. You just testified to that, correct?
that's correct.
But you also testified that too much DNA is not good, correct?
That's correct,
And too little is not too good.
correct. You might not get a full profile.
You hope to get somewhere between 0.8 and 1 nanogram, is that correct?
Ideally, yes.
And we talked about that, that's microscopic.
Oh, yes,
And you can't see that with the naked eye.
correct.
So on the 18th, when you arrive at that house or at the house, your job is to just go through and look at stuff and then try to collect anything that could contain biological evidence, correct?
Yes, that was my role that night
And-
and into the next day.
And your job, and it's an important case, you want to make sure that you don't bring any DNA into the scene, correct?
Correct,
We call that contamination sometime.
correct,
And you use some type of protection, correct?
correct.
In this case, I think that you said you did not have a Tyvek suit on that night, correct?
I don't believe that I did, no.
but you had booties,
Correct.
and those went over your shoes, and each time you left, you took them off, correct?
Correct.
You went outside, they got taken off, and you put new ones on.
Correct.
You didn't recycle them.
That's correct.
And then you had gloves, correct?
That's correct.
And we've heard from other folks from the crime lab that the policies and procedures have changed over the years. But in 2015, each time that you move to a different sample collection, you change gloves. Is that right?
That would be the normal procedure, correct?
And that's what you did.
I believe so, yes. I don't have independent recollection of changing my gloves after every sample, but that would have been the process.
And the goal is so that you don't bring anything in there from one place to another throughout the crime scene, correct?
Correct. Or get my DNA on any of the items that I'm collecting.
And you'd agree that DNA is small and it moves, right?
Yes.
If I sneezed, you might have my DNA on you right now. I know, gross, but
Yes. I don't know how far your sneeze would reach me, but it's possible, yes.
you, you just, I can't remember if you testified. It's been a couple weeks. Did you have respirators on?
No, I did not.
So you were able to, when you got to the house, smell that strong odor, correct?
Correct.
You weren't able
Okay.
to determine if it was chlorine or bleach, correct?
Correct.
And bleach is important in your line of work, correct?
Both bleach and chlorine will burn your nose. So she just knows. So when she walked in, she went, ew, that burns. Just saying.
Yes, it is.
It smells like a bad fart and a skunk smell sauce mopped up together. It is nasty. You got the smell of blood, the smell of death, you got chemicals, and whatever else house odors that were there.
It's something that doesn't allow DNA to be amplified, right? It's an inhibitor, correct?
It destroys DNA. It breaks it down.
So if I wipe this down with bleach, you wouldn't be able to get DNA.
So he's trying to say that be careful there, Boo, because hi out and about with Diane. Be careful, Boo, because what he's going to say is, well, if it was wiped up and wiped out and somebody cleaned it up, then you wouldn't have viable DNA. Well, be careful with what you're saying because you could be inadvertently admitting that your client wiped it up.
From that.
I wouldn't want to say it's impossible. Depends on how well it's clean, but generally speaking, yes. In the laboratory, we use bleach as a cleaning mechanism to clean surface areas and tools that we use in the process to destroy any DNA that might be present on those items.
And that solution is anywhere between 3% and 10%, correct?
That's correct.
And the goal is so there's no cross-contamination, correct?
Cross-contamination or direct contamination, yes.
And you went through and you collected the 26 stains or 26 items. They weren't all stains, correct?
That's correct.
There were 3 parts swabs that you collected from the decedent, correct?
That's correct.
And that was your first day.
That's correct.
And I think we talked about that you immediately went back to the lab and you started to work on developing those profiles, correct?
That's correct.
And we've been talking about PMH. All the work that was done on PMH was done in the lab, is that correct?
Besides collection, yes, everything that was done afterwards was done in the laboratory.
there was a Castlemeyer test. I think you testified that it was positive but weak.
Correct.
And then the hemotrace was negative.
Correct.
And the hemotrace is the confirmatory test.
That's correct.
So based on that test, you could report that it's probably not blood, correct?
My conclusion is that it did not, it was not positive for blood. Blood was not identified.
And that's based on the testing, correct?
That's correct.
So again, your job as a scientist is to do the test and report the results.
That's correct.
And you qualify things like that, correct?
Yes.
I mean, meaning that you're not saying, no, it's not blood, or yes, it is blood. You're saying the test that we administered or conducted resulted in X, correct?
Correct. A negative hemotrace results in a statement on the report that says blood was not identified on that item.
Now, within PMH, there is biological material, correct?
Correct.
And we know that because a profile was extracted.
Correct.
And you talked to us that you did not do the P30 test, which is for sperm, because you didn't have that, right?
I honestly don't recall in 2015, we did do seminal fluid testing with the P30 test. I don't recall if it was available in 2015.
But you didn't do it on that stain.
That's correct.
And you didn't have a saliva test either, correct?
That's correct.
Now, not asking for results here, but there was a test done independently from Scottsdale. Did you review that?
I wasn't actually given the test, but I reviewed it on a laptop, correct?
And it wasn't at your direction, correct?
That's correct.
You considered it before testifying today?
As far, that test has no bearing on my results that were in the report that I generated.
The test is called an amylase. Hold on. What's the second letter? It's not RMID.
It's RSID.
Correct. And that test, if you considered it, it was negative what you read, correct?
That's correct.
But you don't agree or disagree with it, correct?
I mean, since I didn't perform the test and I wasn't present when the test was done, then I really have nothing to say about the test.
And part of the reason that you agree or disagree or not part of that is you weren't there for which part of the swab was taken. Is that right?
That I don't know how the test was performed and what control measures were done. I mean, there's a lot of information I don't know. So since I didn't personally perform the test, it really has no bearing on my conclusion of my reported results or my testimony today.
And you're not telling us what PMH is, correct?
That's correct.
I just need 1 second. Judge, may I just have a moment to talk to my team?
Yes, you may.
I brewed my coffee and the coffee grounds exploded in the chamber. That was not fun. I got coffee grinds everywhere. I don't know. But luckily, My coffee grinds stick to the wood on the spoon. So see, it's easy to get them out. Compared to other methods. Yep. It's weird though. The coffee grinds usually don't go down the holes. I don't mind a few. I do mind a ton. How's everybody doing? Let me zoom this along a little bit.
Even though you guys didn't have those tests available for you, you could have outsourced them if there was a need for it, correct?
That wouldn't be a decision of the laboratory. That would be a decision of the police department.
And other labs could have that available, correct?
Yes, private laboratories can provide serological testing such as saliva testing.
And again, you said something that it's the decision of the police, correct? If they want to go forward with that.
Yes, since we don't provide that service, that's not something that we would necessarily offer. We could provide laboratories to them if they wanted to know laboratories that provide that service, but that isn't a decision that the laboratory would necessarily make.
And I think it's important to recognize that even though you are part of the city of Scottsdale, you try to remain independent of the Scottsdale Police Department, correct?
Correct.
I mean, we are part of the Scottsdale Police Department umbrella, but yes, we try to make sure that there's no bias or pressure from the department on our testing, our results, our conclusions, our reporting.
And they do have the power to request something be done fast, such as the 26 samples here, correct?
Yes, they can request a rush status, an expedited service, correct?
But again, you're just gonna, if that's granted, you're gonna do the work and you're gonna provide results, correct?
That's correct.
I don't have any other questions, thank you.
And redirect by the state.
Let's talk about amylase.
Okay.
So you've had this discussion with the defense before about amylase testing in an interview they did with you a few years ago. Is that correct?
Yes.
You mentioned that during your testimony that your particular lab no longer does amylase testing.
That's correct.
Can you explain why that is?
There's a couple reasons. Serology overall is a lot of laboratories are not doing that type of testing anymore because it consumes samples, and a lot of laboratories are moving to a direct to DNA process. So they're not concerned so much what the source of DNA is, just that the DNA is present. Also, that test wasn't performed very often in our laboratory, and it takes a rather large amount of sample for the saliva test that we had online at the time.
Okay, so I want to focus on the large amount of sample. So we saw a swab from PMH. There was a photo of it in one of the exhibits, and we've seen examples of these swabs throughout the trial that the head of that swab is like a Q-tip.
That's correct.
Okay, and so when you are doing your DNA analysis, can you explain, remind the jury, I guess, how you go about, like, do you use the whole entire tip of that Q-tip? Explain that part once again.
Back
Why?
in 2015, we would try to save some of the sample for retesting if needed. So typically we would take approximately half of a swab for our DNA analysis and serology, whatever serology testing we're performing. Typically most serology tests take just a very small portion of a swab. And so we try to save at least a portion for retesting should it need to be done.
Okay, so when you're doing an actual swab, we've heard about a lot of factors that affect the swabbing process, how you roll the swab, how much pressure is applied to the swab, can that affect the amount of whatever substance or biological evidence that you're picking up? Can it vary throughout even that small Q-tip?
It can. We do our best to twirl. I personally twirl the swab as I'm swabbing to try to get the material to cover, the entirety of the swab. But it may be that there's a portion of the swab that has more DNA than another portion of the swab. That is possible.
And in this particular case, did you retain a portion of that swab that we saw for possible later testing?
Yes,
And so was it half? Do you remember?
it was approximately half.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you about this because you mentioned that not at your request, but at another request, a portion of the swab was sent out to another lab.
That's correct.
Okay. Were you the person who packaged that to send off to the other lab?
I was.
Okay. So you personally are aware of how much was sent to the other lab.
Correct.
And you mentioned that when doing tests for amylase, which we've talked about as a saliva test, does it have to do with a protein that's found in saliva, the scientific version of what we're talking about?
Yes, amylase is found in saliva, so the test is actually to detect amylase.
Okay. And so you mentioned that your lab has steered away from doing that testing because of how much sample is needed to actually do an accurate test.
That's one of the reasons, yes.
So let me ask you this. If a portion of a swab is sent over and there's not enough of a substance on that particular portion of the swab, could that then give a false negative?
It couldn't give a negative result. I don't know that it's necessarily a false negative because it's below the detection level of the tests.
Okay. Can you explain that?
Yes, for serology testing, there are tests that we test bodily fluids, blood, semen, saliva. These tests have detection limits. So there needs to be enough of that substance in order for the test to work properly if present.
Now, recognizing that you only sent over a small portion of a small Q-tip swab anyways, was that one of the concerns expressed to defense
Yes,
in terms of the negative result?
yes. I had concerns that perhaps there was enough substance on the swab or there actually was no amylase present.
And you also identified a lot of other factors that you can't really speak about this test because you weren't the one conducting it. You don't know what was done. So that's another reason why you can't rely on that
That's correct.
or are not relying on that for your testimony in court
That's correct.
or any conclusions you reached in your reports.
That's correct.
There was some questions about bleach and chlorine. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the effects of chlorine on DNA?
Bleach is made of chlorine, but of specific studies, what chlorine can do, like pool chlorine, no, I'm not.
Would you have the same possible concerns about the effect that either of those substances could have on potential biological evidence?
Yes.
You mentioned that when you went through the Feldman residence on the evening of the 18th into the early morning hours of the 19th, that aside from the crime scene aspect of it, the floor itself and other area, it appeared to be a clean residence.
Yes.
And you mentioned when Mr. Kirchhoff asked you questions, do you remember when he said, if I took bleach and I wiped down the surface, would I eliminate all the DNA? Do you recall
Yes.
that?
Yes.
And I think you answered, correct me if I'm wrong, that certainly can destroy DNA, but if you missed a spot or or maybe somehow didn't get it all, that you could still potentially collect biological evidence.
I think that could still be possible.
To put back up PMH from what was in Exhibit 63, that PowerPoint, does this area appear to have been clean to you, this particular cluster?
No.
I wanted to clarify a portion of your testimony related to the questions asked to you about the Castlemeyer and the hematrace. I think Mr. Kirchler established that the way you interpret is you have these tests that have gone through validation procedures in your lab to make sure that the controls are working, and you kind of talked about all of that. Do you recall that portion of the testimony?
Yes.
When you conclude and make these concluding statements in your report that blood could not be identified, you mentioned that that's after performing the test, correct?
That's correct.
And he mentioned that you can't say there's no blood or yes, there's blood, that you use this test and that blood can't be identified. Can you ever say for sure?
Whether the test positive or negative?
Or whether there would be blood? I mean, you have this test and you try to do the best that you can. Can you explain the reason why it's blood was not identified versus there is blood or there's not blood? Is there a distinction there?
Yes, the term blood was not identified means that the test, it did not result in a positive test, but the other possibility is that there's blood, but below the detection level of the test.
And that was a much better answer to my horrible question. Thank you. So when you're looking at all of these different types of tests, the way that you report results, there's detection levels for almost every type of test that you do within your lab. Is that fair?
Almost, yes.
And if something falls below something that your lab is comfortable in reporting, you can't report it. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Do different labs, based on your training and experience, have different detection levels established?
It's possible. I would say that probably the majority of labs use manufacturer recommendations. However, every lab would do their own validation test and perhaps would come up with another detection level depending on their use of the test in their laboratory.
And have you seen that among the labs?
It would specify what type of test we're talking about.
Well, let me give you-
Chemical tests like the Castlemeyer, there's either a color change or there isn't a color change. There's not so much a value that's associated with the test.
Okay, let's get away from those tests for a moment and talk about DNA. In order for you to report a particular profile, it cannot fall below certain detection levels. Is that accurate?
Objection beyond the scope.
Overruled, the witness can answer.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. When you're establishing a DNA profile, in order to be able to call something at a particular location or not call something, there are certain detection levels that you have to adhere to.
That's correct.
Okay. And I'll ask you, I think I'm going to ask you more about this the next time you testify. So I'm going to move on from this at this particular point. But later on, I'll probably be re-asking you about that particular point. You were asked about what you were wearing when you were in the home that night. Do you recall that portion
Yes,
of the testimony? And you mentioned you did not have a Tyvek suit on,
that's correct.
but that you had booties and gloves.
Correct.
And if I'm summarizing your testimony correctly, that it was Scottsdale's procedure at the time, back in 2015, as you changed from one sample to the next to change gloves.
Correct.
Would you have followed that procedure?
I would have, yes.
You mentioned you didn't have any independent recollection. This was 11 years ago.
Yes.
Do you have any doubt that you would have followed whatever the procedure was that was in place for your lab at the time?
I would have followed it.
And Mr. Kirchler gave an example of sneezing, and how it could reach you and things like that. I don't think there's any dispute from probably anybody in this courtroom that you handled the swabs for PMH in this case.
That's correct.
And that this particular swab that we saw was collected by you,
Correct.
packaged,
Correct.
brought back to your lab within that same period of time,
Correct.
and then you were the one that tested it.
That's correct.
But your DNA wasn't on the swab.
No, my DNA was not detected on that swab.
Nothing else. Thank you.
Okay. And could the parties approach, please?
We talking about sidebar, sidebar. It's that time of night, y'all. Yep, literally on the grass. Yep. Mm-hmm. I haven't had enough coffee with this. And so I've got more. In our beautiful I'm an HO, I'm my humble opinion mug that you too can buy at our merch shop. Where's my merch shop? We don't have a merch shop thing, do we? Do we have a merch? No, we don't have a merch QR code. Y'all got to create one.
If anyone has any questions for this witness, I would collect them at this time.
I need to have a QR code for the merch shop. I don't know why I thought I had one. I wonder why I'm messing up.
And you may approach.
I got it. I got it. There's my merch. There's the link to the merch. Let me move it. Let me move it. I've got too many windows up. I'm moving it. Boy, they're there a long time. Guess they went on break. This is the court that just disappears. They go on break forever. They just disappear. There you go.
Before I transferred or left from there, and I moved to Wisconsin in June of 1995, where I worked for the Wauwatosa Police Department, and that spelling is Wauwatosa. It's a municipality outside Milwaukee, where I worked for about 5.5 years, again, as patrol officer, field training officer. Was a member of the special response team, their equivalent of the SWAT team, as well as traffic collision reconstruction. I did a short time from October of 2000 until July of 2001, working for a different municipality in Iowa called Madrid, Madrid. It was a very small agency, and that prompted me to move to Scottsdale, where I was hired in September of 2001 as a patrol officer, and I've been there ever since. I was a patrol officer, went to the state academy for basic training here, and then I became a detective for the domestic violence unit in February of 2006. In June of 2006, I transferred to the sex crimes unit, where I worked as a sex crimes investigator for about 6 years. And then I transferred to the violent crimes unit in 2012, and that's my current assignment now.
In the violent crimes unit, we've heard from some of the other detectives, but that would obviously be the unit that handles homicides for Scottsdale Police.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So we heard kind of about your trajectory starting in 1991 as a police officer. Can you tell me, we'll start at kind of the academy and transitioning into becoming a detective. Do you receive additional specialized training as you transition?
Yes, so patrol officers will have annual training as well as patrol-based training, some interviewing skills, some little bit of crime scene, some other things. And once I moved to the detectives, which was a tested for process, so then I received additional training on additional search and seizure, crime scene management. I've handled interview classes. I've been to several different homicide conferences, the California and Arizona Homicide Associations membership that we've had conferences for. And then I've also attended Bevel and Gardner bloodstain pattern analysis training as well.
And while we're on that, can you tell me a little bit more about that bloodstain pattern analysis?
Sure. So that was in early 2019. It's a 40-hour class, lecture and hands-on bloodstain pattern analysis where we actually discuss all the different types of bloodstain evidence that you may see at a crime scene, as well as reproduce some in a controlled environment by having different things that the instructors or even the students take part in, and then evaluate afterward. They'll give you a practical exam at the end to determine if you can determine what the sequence of events or what happened in this staged scene that they created.
And have you kind of over the years after you became a detective with the violent crimes unit, have you continued your training or going to conferences to the extent that your schedule allows?
Yes, absolutely.
We mentioned you're the case agent. You're sitting here today in 2026. Were you always assigned as the case agent in this case?
No, I was not.
So tell me a little bit more about that.
So initially in February of 2015, I was a violent crimes investigator. I was called to the scene initially with several other investigators. And at that point, Detective Brian McWilliams was assigned as the case agent. Over the course of the next couple of years, Detective McWilliams actually transferred to the burglary unit. And I believe in February of 2017, at the time, I think Sergeant Lockerbie was my boss, and then he reassigned the case to me.
And at that point even in 2015, you had been a police officer or detective since 2006, about right?
That's correct.
Okay. So we're gonna kind of break your role up into a few different chunks. And today I'm gonna ask you about sort of the early part of this investigation. And then next week or the week after, we'll have you testify after we move forward in the investigation, okay?
Okay.
So today you've mentioned that you went out to the scene. So I'm gonna sort of broad brush. Early in this case, you went to the scene February 18th, 2015 with the group of detectives.
Yes, that's correct.
Did you go out there each of those days that we've heard about, the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and we'll talk about those days. As part of your early role, did you also have some contact? Did you go to the autopsy on the morning of the 19th?
I did.
Did that take you away from the scene for a period of time?
It did.
Okay. Did you also, were you the detective who was asked to make contact with Harley Feldman on the 18th by phone to inform him of his daughter's murder?
Yes, I did.
And did you have contact with one of the fire department personnel, an initial contact on the 18th? Was that something assigned to you? Do you recall Adam Arrington?
Yes. So we interviewed all of the fire department personnel that went into the scene, and Adam Arrington was one of the firefighters that I spoke with.
Were you assigned early in the case, but in March now, to make contact with Nicole Nesselrode, the witness we heard about from down the street that heard the screaming?
Yes, I contacted her while we were doing a neighborhood canvass, and I spoke with Ms. Nesselrode at that point, yes.
And just while we're kind of doing broad brush things, did anyone at Scottsdale PD, the patrol, to your knowledge, had anyone been issued body cams or anything at that time?
I don't believe anyone had body cams. If they did, we were just rolling them out, and it would have maybe been the DUI squad, the drunk driving people. But I don't believe, certainly not as every officer, no one had them, no.
So fair to say there were body cams in existence in 2015, but the fact that we haven't seen body cams, for instance, from the responding patrol officers that cleared the house or the initial responding detectives, for instance, that is not odd or unusual in any way.
No, they just weren't issued back then.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of drill down a little bit more into your role in this case, and we're going to jump around and kind of show the jury a few things that they haven't seen yet. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, just to get us started this afternoon, is we've heard about a house just south of Allison's house that had surveillance cameras that were noted by other detectives.
Yes,
You recall that?
I do.
Was their video from that house ultimately obtained by Scottsdale Police?
Yes,
Did you personally get that from the owners of that home?
I did not know.
Have you seen that video since it was obtained?
I have.
And Judge, I have here a USB marked as Exhibit 657, previously shown it to defense. I believe they're going to stipulate to its admission.
Any objection?
No objection.
It's ordered admitting 657 into evidence.
May I publish it, Judge?
You may.
So Detective, I'm going to ask you some questions and I'm going to show you some clips from this. And although they may speak for themselves in some ways, I'm going to ask you about what we're looking at. 657. This piece. So we're going to start with just this folder here so it can acclimate us with what we're looking at. And this mouse is a little odd when I get it up on the screen, so bear with me. So we have 2 dates here and an address. I mean, what is that consistent with?
So that's first one, February 17th of 2015 is the date. 8534 East Monterey Way is the address of the Politos. That is one house south or east of Allison's. It's kind of on a curve. And then the numbers 0000 to 2359 are the hours in military time. So from midnight until 11:59 p.m. And then the same thing for February 18th, the exact same thing. And actually that one stops at 2029 or what would be 8:29 p.m.
And at that point on the 18th, at 2029, the police are well underway in securing that home.
Right. Officers have been at the house for about 4 hours by then.
So once we get into this, I'm going to open this folder that starts with February 17. Now, this folder here, it says 8, that's office extension. Detective, were there other surveillance cameras on the Politos home?
Yes, they had several surveillance cameras, most of which, all of them covered their particular house in the backyard, in the front yard, in the front door. This particular camera is what they consider their office exterior, which would be at that northwest corner of their house. It's focused on their window, but in the background, you see the front yard of Allison's residence and a little bit of that front porch.
So there were other camera angles that police were able to obtain and look at. Is that fair, that you've seen yourself?
Yes, correct. And I think there were a total of 8. This was the only one of any relevance that showed any more than just their house.
And do these have audio?
They do not.
I'm going to play some now, but before we, get too deep into this, I just wanted to be clear. What are we able to see on this video at night? Are you able to see very much?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, they're not. I don't believe they're infrared. Again, it's focused on the window of the house. So I think you see a small cactus that's growing there, and then for the most part, unless there's an outside light source, it's pretty much completely dark.
Okay, so let's get into this. And when we look at this naming convention, Detective, I'll just read it if I can. 22015-0217, and then 6 numbers after that. What does that kind of correspond to, or if anything?
So what that is that shows the year, the month, the day, and then the start time of each video. Each video clip is about 30 minutes long. So for example, that top one, that 0000, and then the last 2 zeros depicts midnight. And then the next one is 0030. So that'd be like 12:30 a.m. again for that next 30-minute block of time.
Okay. And I might as well play just one real quick, and I'll just pick this one just so they can kind of, well, that's not going to be a good one. Let me go down to, it's kind of delayed here. So what we're seeing 13:30 here. That's about 1:30 in the afternoon, roughly.
Yes, that's
Sound
correct.
right? Okay, I'll play that one, not for any particular substance, but just to give us an understanding of what the point of view looks like. And it looks like they're all going to pop up on the other screen. So what are we looking at here, Detective? What part of the homes?
Okay, so again, on the lower right corner is that window of the Politos residence. And then that little white raised box with the cactus, that's the edge, the south edge of Allison's property. The driveway you see cuts across on an angle, sort of by where the time numbers are. And then up in that upper right corner is the area right outside her front door.
And I'm just curious if this even works. Are you able to touch your screen and make any marks? Does that leave any marks? No, it doesn't look like it. Okay. So the house sort of in the foreground here with the plants and stuff, is this the Politos home?
Yes, that's correct.
And where would where would the street be? Where would Monterey Way be if you're coming home?
So it's not on the video, but it would be off the screen in that upper left corner. And again, if you can imagine, it kind of makes a curve So that's where that would be. And at night, you might be able to see headlights.
What?
Yeah, it seems like legs walk, and you can almost tell that there's legs walking across it, which would make sense based on the driver's side and how she would have to go around to get into her house.
And at 7:19, if I can jump there roughly, do we ultimately see that, well, let me see if it'll go. When you were in the scene, Detective, you went in first with Miss Palma, is that right?
Yes, that's
Well,
correct.
after the patrol officers. Did you see some items that appeared to have been unpacked and left on the kitchen counter?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm looking for is just right about there. Do we see at that point the lights kind of going away? What does that indicate to you?
Yeah, so that's telling me that the garage door is now closing and that that little last remnant of light at the ground level is now, that's the last thing you see. So it'll close and then it'll go back to that complete darkness again. Here's the garage is closing right now at 7:19 and 13 seconds.
And now with no illumination, you kind of just get this fuzzy pattern that doesn't really seem to indicate anything.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna jump now to a different file and just kind of get an understanding here. So on the same day, on the 17th, I'm now gonna go to time frame around 9 p.m. If I can. So we're at 21:01. Well, can go here. So now we're at 9:01. And we see that porch light is on.
Yes, that's correct.
Is it a recollection, Detective, that porch light came on right about 9 p.m.
Yes, it did.
from the surveillance? And with the porch light on, you kind of can see where her door kind of is in relation to this darkness. Is that right?
Right. With the assistance of the light now, you can determine there's that cactus, at least the shape of it, and then that front kind of porch area outside that front door. But again, it's about maybe a foot high. You don't see much. If we'd see video of somebody walking up there during the day, you'd see it goes basically from about their knees down.
Now I'm going to jump again. Does this porch light, Detective, stay on from this time frame until just after midnight?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you tell me, if you recall off the top of your head from the Cox alarm system, what time the front door at that midnight time frame when the porch light goes off? So I'll jump to the porch light going off and then I'll ask you those questions, but keep that in your mind. And now we're going to jump to midnight, which I think is going to be on the other date here. I'm now going to the file that's labeled February 18th. Again, same subfolder naming convention. Again, same convention for the file names. This time we're looking at the 18th of February, 2015.
Yeah, that's correct. And so the remaining 6 numbers are literally the hours, minutes, and seconds. So that would be midnight 0 seconds would be the start of this video clip.
Okay, and I'm going to play that one. Again, we can see on this now that porch light is still on. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And now, if I jump forward to about 12:13 here. Well, leave it there. 12:12:07. I'm going to let it run for about a minute, but I want to ask you, do you remember from that Cox alarm system that front door opening and closing around 12:12?
Yes, I do.
And that it ultimately doesn't open again for about 4 minutes around 12:16 and then closes again 15 or so seconds later?
That's correct.
Okay, so we have a little gap. 12:12, it opens, closes. About 4 minutes later, opens, closes again. And I point that out just to say, after that, well, if these timeframes are consistent, after that first opening and closing, what we have on the surveillance, we'll see in just about 20 seconds, is does the porch light go out?
The porch light does go out at 12:13 and about 10 or 12 seconds.
And then after this one, I'm going to jump to this later in this same day when Alex arrives. We'll get there. in there, Detective. We saw the porch lights out now.
Yes, at about 22 seconds past the minute there.
And we heard from Lieutenant Lockerbie that at one point there was even an attempt to enhance this video, but nothing was able to be done with it.
That's correct.
Okay. And I'm not gonna, play another hour of this, but is it safe to say you really, it's hard to see anything of clear substance more than what we're looking at right now in the darkness?
That's correct. I've watched this entire the following hour, and you don't see any movement, anybody walking around in front.
Okay. I'm not gonna just let it run, but I'm gonna jump now to another daylight clip where we're able to see some more content. So now I'm gonna go to 3:57 p.m. and ask you what we're looking at. Oh, we're 11, 1. All right, what are we at here? 2. There we go. So I'm gonna play this clip ending 153. No, I'm sorry. Where are we? Yeah, 4. We got to back up a little bit. I'm doing the military time thing, but now it's throwing me off even more. 2:18. So we're at 3:01 here.
Yes, 3:01 and 6 seconds is where
Okay,
that starts.
and we're at 3:31. So I'll go to this one here, ending 3109. And now we're in the daylight again, Detective.
Yes, that's correct.
3:30, roughly 3:31 in the afternoon.
Right, 3 on the Wednesday, the 18th.
Okay. So now I'm going to jump to about 3:57, which is going to be close to the end of this, and just talk us through what we're going to see. All right, I will let it run from here at the risk of overshooting. Letting it run from about 3:56:50 for about 30 seconds. Ultimately, Detective, just to get to it, what are we going to end up seeing on this video from the Politos?
So on this video, what we're going to see is Alex arriving at the house. As he explained, he got there just before 4 o'clock that Wednesday, and he parks in the driveway in his blue BMW, and then you can see him get out. It appears that he walks up
Informed. I normally don't chew gum, but the allergies are so bad. I live in Kerrville, Texas, and allergy numbers are usually about 900. They're at 12,500 plus. I've been draining. My ears are full of fluid, my sinuses. So I did the gum, the lollipop with the gum, to try to get my ears and all that to pop. So my apologies. But normally I don't do gum. I know it's not really becoming, but I have hearing aids. I'm deaf without my hearing aids. So my ears don't pop like normal people. I can't blow and pop my ears. Can't do it. So when I chew gum and I really get that in there, it pops it. If you notice, I spit it out. It's a very short time that I have it in. My apologies. It is more of a medical thing than anything. I am really been fighting these allergies for the last week. So where do you hail from, Misinformed? But you're right. You can ask anybody on my lives. I am not a normal gum chewer on lives. Only when I'm can't clear my ears and I feel that pressure building up. It's a little different for those of us who wear hearing aids that are full ear hearing aids. It totally closes off. Now it's meant to be that dark color because I can tell them apart. Left is dark, right is light. But when you have this and it totally no air gets into your ears, it's very uncomfortable when that pressure builds. So my apologies, but you're right. Like I said, it's not a normal thing.
garage as if maybe punching that code in, which again, he told us that he did to check the garage. And then ultimately he walks to the front door and then he goes in the house through the front door.
Angela, is your little girl watching? Tell me yes or no.
So right there at 3:57 and 44 seconds, that's Alex's blue BMW. And again, it was parked in the driveway when we arrived.
I'm just gonna let this play a few minutes so we can see Alex's movements as he, well, as we've heard from him, but also as we'll see on this video.
I hope you can
This is
forgive
what Alex
me.
is wearing when police arrive.
Yes, it is.
Oh, I don't want her here. Never mind. We're good. We'll talk to you later. Hey, Red Panda. Love you.
Now at 3:59, we see him kind of by the doorway.
Yes, that's correct. That's the front door. And again, where he can step in without going into the house, but be out of that camera view. Again, you see him about from the waist, actually, down a little bit higher than I thought initially.
And do we know from the Cox alarm system that the door opens at roughly 3:59:30 at this point in the case?
Yes, that's correct.
And at this point, Detective, I'm going to jump to the next file, which because this one ends in a couple minutes and we won't see anything else for that time frame. We'll go to 401 if I can.
Can she see? No, we'll talk later. I got everything all done and set. Dang, this thing gets hot.
Just kind of clicking through the last minute or so of this one since there wasn't too much left, and then we'll go to the next one with where we in the next video will we see Alex again.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Guys, at least with this guy, their background is all black. You just see files, dates, and numbers and things like that. I think that's fine. But we have been in trials where people had the lawyers had their puppy and their family pictures in the background. And it's like, dude, have what's called a clean working computer. So I'm glad to see that's clean.
Next one down on this list. Again, we see just picking up at the 4:01:10 time frame roughly.
Yes, that's correct.
I think it's must be 11 seconds, but I'm gonna jump here to. Well, I'll let it play for a moment. Do you have a memory, Detective, or if I said to you that the 911 call was about 4:02 or so, does that sound about right? Is it consistent or so with the video that he calls 911 around this 4 p.m. time frame?
Yes, it is.
And is it possible that this Polito video, the 911 system, and even the Cox door alarm system are not all perfectly synced, times?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So if one says 4:02:07, the Cox door alarm might say 4:02:22 or something because they're not they're not synced by satellite or something.
That's correct.
Okay. But generally they're consistent with each other across the board.
Generally, they are, yes.
Okay. So at 4, we're going to go to 4:03 or so. Are we going to see Alex again? Do you know? Do you remember?
Yes, I do believe he comes out outside at that point
Okay.
while he's still on the phone with the 911 call taker.
Okay.
Seconds is where Alex steps outside in the camera view just for a moment, then he steps back in the doorway. I don't recall if the door opened or closed again at that point. But there was also at some point the call dropped off and he had to reconnect with 911. There were 2 911 calls, and I believe that was right around this time as well.
And do you remember having sat here in court and listened to it recently anyway, as well as during the pendency of this case, Alex making a comment about having to find her address at one point?
Yes, that's correct.
I'm gonna maybe jump just a minute forward. I was gonna have a lot of space here. Well, maybe not. we see Alex come out again?
Yes, at about 4:05 and maybe 9 seconds.
Okay. And I'll let this run for another 30 seconds. By about 4:06, I'm going to ask you if you see anything different.
Okay, we're gonna zoom a little
So
bit.
that shadow at 4:06 in about 10 seconds is, that's the fire truck that is arriving on scene with the fire
I'm not seeing anything. I guess it's just me.
department personnel who will then ultimately go into the house.
It was a shadow. Oh, there.
And do we see some of
The
the
feet.
personnel on the video?
Yes.
Let
at
me move
4:06,
the QR code.
see the carrying their gear going inside.
I'm gonna get rid of that QR code. We don't always have to leave it up. There's there's the feet. Those look like the firefighters, is it? This looks like firefighters.
Look like potentially 4 guys, fire department guys are seen on that entering or going towards the doorway anyway?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And again, not all of them, the camera doesn't capture everything on the front porch, so that doesn't necessarily say that they went into the house, just that they went in on the porch out of camera view.
You
There's
can
someone
kinda
in
see
upper
a
right
camera there
hand.
and maybe dropped some gear or something on the floor right before that. It's kind of
Yes.
hard to see. But there's enough space between the edge of that, what we can see, and the door for people to stand in that doorway and not be seen.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I'm gonna let it play to 4:08 and ask you what's going on at that point. And obviously what we're seeing here, what you described earlier from sort of the knees down, are you able to tell us who exactly each of these individuals are, just based on their, knees and shoes?
I can't. I know that there were 4 firefighters that went in, that coordinated, but then the officers, I would have no idea.
And we've heard
Not-
from some of the initial,
Not unless they had tattoos on their legs that said their names and you could read it from here. I'm sorry. Sometimes I laugh at the lawyers questioning.
responding officers and sergeant about kind of the process of going up, 2 of them, and then they waited for 1 more. We heard all that testimony while you were here. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes, I do.
Okay. We still see Alex outside, obviously.
Yes, on the passenger side of his car.
And then at 4:09:30, I'm going to ask you if you see potentially some more police gathering. So we see at least additional people gathering by the door.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And we know at some point fire department personnel are exiting. You see some of their gear.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I'm going to jump a few minutes. Well, let this play for another minute or so.
I see at least 6. I saw 4 by the car and then at least 2 way up here in this corner. I'd say at least 6 people are there, wouldn't you? I see more than 4.
Jump a few minutes ahead. We see these, some of the fire gear up there in the top right corner.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Things that were brought back from inside the house. Excuse me.
Since we heard some of this testimony, I'm just going to show you at about 4:13:50. There you go. Another person kind of hustling up to the house, potentially the last or the 3rd patrol officer that we heard testimony from that entered the home.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, we had heard from witnesses earlier that they had kind of went into the home, cleared the, well, let me ask you this. What, this person looks different. Why do they look different?
Best I can tell is that's either an off or a plainclothes, one of our detectives, but I don't know who that is.
But still a police officer, you saw a gun on their waist?
Yes.
Okay. We heard that when the 3 patrol officers went in, they went and they opened that door that leads from the kitchen area into the enclosed carport and checked there. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And then do we have corresponding openings and closings on the Cox alarm about 412 for that door?
Yes,
Does that
that's
sound
correct.
right? Okay. And then we heard that master bath, which leads out to the backyard, that some patrol officers actually went out there and then out the gate. And do we have that door opening at and closing between 416 and 419?
Yes, that's correct as well.
And from your understanding and review of the Cox records, during this time frame that the patrol are clearing the house, do we ever show them going out the sliding glass Arcadia door opening and closing?
No, the Arcadia door does not open anytime at this time.
Okay. And again, I'm not gonna show all of this, but is this relatively consistent where we have police officers arriving to the exterior of the home? Can we still see Alex barely on this point of view?
Yes, I believe that's him at the top of the screen, right in the middle, seated on the ground. That's right about where his hat was found, that U of A baseball cap. It was in the gravel somewhere near there. And I believe fire department personnel are tending to him there.
Okay.
Uh-oh. What happened? That won't be me. Gremlins attacking again. I'll get it back. Uh-oh, where's the Ian Mitcham? How did y'all send that to me, June? Was that in private? No. I gotta get it back again, y'all. Let me see. Hold on. Got it. No, that's my live. I don't want my live. I want Ian Mitcham. There it is. Okay, I'm getting us there, y'all. We're almost done with this, guys. There we go. Got it. Sorry about that. It's been glitchy today. This is the second time that's happened today in this live alone. Okay, let me get the sound.
A video and there's no audio and it's kind of hard to see everything, but fair to say this is all consistent with the things that you observed at the point that you arrived.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Now I'm gonna jump to 421, just a few more minutes. Can we see some individuals leaving the house or leaving the entryway, I should say.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, 421, 30, what do we see here?
This is one of our patrol officers. I believe that's Sergeant Williamson stringing up that red crime scene tape.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of goes beyond the scope of this point of view, but just to be clear, this is still the front of the house in the sense of, is there a way to get from the front of the house to the back of the house on either of the walls on the front? That makes sense?
There are no gates or anything on that front wall or the west wall of Allison's property. The only way to go to the backyard from the front is either through the house or through the garage.
And now I'm gonna jump to about, well, I'm gonna have to go to a different file here. Just 2 more clips. I'm gonna go to 6, the file ending 0120. This we have about 6 p.m. in the evening. Oops. Does that look right?
Yes, it starts at about 6:01 p.m.
Okay. I'm gonna jump to 6:20, and now we heard from the time frame of sort of initially arriving that detectives initially arriving, some things needed to be done as far as securing the home and then essentially getting permission to go in and process the home. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So during these few hours here, the crime scene tape is up and the home is secure. No one's allowed in or out. That's not appropriate.
That's correct. The house was secured at that point.
Okay. And if needed, as obviously warrants would be obtained and people are being called in that need to be called in.
Yes.
Okay. So at 6:20, I'm just gonna ask you if you recognize the person we're gonna see. This mouse. Oh. All right, 6:20 roughly. What did we see there, Detective? Do you know? Or who, do you know who that is?
Oh, is this
potentially?
person walking around? So in the corner now, in the upper right corner, that's crime scene specialist Palma. And she's photographing Alex's car in the driveway.
Okay. And we heard about how she goes and takes initial photos or entry photos, and this was one of the things that she was photographing.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And we've seen a bunch of those photos already, but a lot of them are taken into the night as the sun has gone down. Is that right?
Yes.
So obviously we're not gonna see much on here, but I'm gonna jump to one more clip and then I'll move to a different segment of your testimony. Now I'm going to the file ending 3130. All right, now it's a bit darker. And we see somebody walking along the top of the screen. I don't know if you caught that. We got a flashlight now.
Yes.
Just gonna back it up to the very beginning, 7:31. Is this a time frame when that van or police cars would be out there?
Yes, that's correct. So a lot of the light, the ambient light that you're seeing is from our crime scene, our Mac van, the van that we bring out for scenes.
It's not quite where I wanted it, but that's okay. Fair to say that at this point into the evening, what we heard from Ms. Palma is that you and her are going to do some entry and walk through photographs.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. It's pretty hard to see in this, so without having to reload it here, I'll just note there you can see it, sort of some people walking in using flashlights and flashes going off of photographs being taken.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna move now. We can take this off for now, so I don't inadvertently play something while I'm trying to talk. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. So at the risk of kind of going back to things that the jury may have heard about, I do want to ask you, Detective, because you had your own personal knowledge and interaction at this crime scene. So we've heard a lot about this scene from a lot of people that were there. But can you tell me again, what's your role? You're not the case agent at that point, it's McWilliams. So what is your assignment?
So when I first arrived, I was initially assigned to be part of the scene, to document the scene along with Detective Lockerbie. And then roles changed a little bit as I had to step away to contact Mr. Feldman.
And so you and Lockerbie are going to be kind of a joint scene detectives?
Yes, that's correct.
But he ultimately takes on the documentation and a lot of the reporting as it comes out of the scene?
He did. He documented the majority of it. I did some, but not in that great of detail compared to his.
Okay. And so we know that you go in first with Ms. Palma. We know that you're there. At what point, so you said you had to step away to talk to Mr. Feldman. Around when is that in the time frame? you
I
recall?
believe that was about 5:30, maybe 5:25 or somewhere 5:45 even. But we had received information that Mr. Feldman had contacted the police department asking that a welfare check be done on Allison. And this was one of those things, the media was already aware and they were already responding. So we felt it best that I reach out to him and let him know before he'd see something online or on TV.
And did you know at that point that he was out of state?
I did.
So you weren't able to quickly go to him in person?
That's exactly right. If he were closer, I would have definitely driven and done that in person, but unfortunately, I had to make that phone call rather than talk to him face to face.
And so as you moving back physically to Allison's home, I understand that the scene is processed over a number of days. I'm going to ask you about a few things for you, sort of, that you personally may have had a hand in. One of them is we've heard a lot about the trash. I just want to get that out of the way. Was there a trash bag in the kitchen?
There was a white, like 13-gallon plastic trash bag that was sitting in the kitchen, sort of in that entrance to the laundry room. It was just on the floor. It was full of just regular old garbage, is what it looked like.
And did you take a look in that trash bag?
Ultimately, I did. I moved it outside. I don't recall which particular day, but I moved that out onto the that garage area, and I searched through the trash to see if there was anything of evidentiary value.
And did you find anything?
I did not.
Did you, we've seen photos of the trash in the kitchen. We've seen photos out the laundry room door of the bag sitting on the, in the sort of carport area. Again, you had been a detective at that point. You've been a police officer since 1991 at this point in 2015. So 24 years, if my math is right. And a detective since 06.
That's correct.
So you look at the trash bag. You did you find a pizza receipt that you took out just in case?
In the recycling bin that was outside, the large plastic bin, there was a pizza box, I think it was Papa John's, that looked like pizza had been delivered on Monday. And there was the barcode, the little receipt on the side of the box that I literally collected an impound. I cut it off the box because it was a greasy pizza box. So I just wanted the receipt. So I cut that off and I handed it off to Sergeant Davidson to have somebody follow up with that.
And again, at this point in the case, you detectives don't know what's going to lead where. Fair to say?
That's correct.
So, okay. Just to talk about it now, do you, detective, give in any case in which you're involved, sometimes does defense ask to interview you prior to trial?
Yes,
Did you do that in this case?
I did.
Did you actually do more than one interview with defense attorneys prior to trial, in this case, at their request?
Yes, I did.
And sometimes do those interviews cover different topics? You know, they're not just always limited to topics A, B, and C, but maybe defense wants to ask you about, you know, X, Y, and Z also.
Yes, that's correct.
Sometimes after an interview or after you've answered a question, do you go back and look at your reports or think about the case, and do you, you know, have more context for an answer that you may have given in that interview?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you too much more about that, but sitting here testifying today, detective, this case is now almost 11 years old. Did you write reports in this case?
I did several.
As the case agent, do you review pretty much everything that's gone on, reports from everyone involved?
I tried to. Yeah, absolutely.
So you're not, you know, do you have a photographic memory?
I do not.
Okay. But so I'm not going to ask you, you know, what's on page 2 of this person's report, but fair to say that part of your role is to kind of take in information from multiple sources and compile or synthesize things as the case moves forward?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm going to jump now back to the scene. Well, this is going to be tricky because we don't have too much space here, but let's just go to this picture. All right. And Judge, we have also discussed the admissions of exhibits 604 through 656. What's in here, as well as separately 662.
Any objection?
No.
It's ordered admitting 604 through 656 and 662 into evidence.
And I should note, just for the record, one of those, and I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, has already been admitted last week. So I can find that one for the clerk if that helps.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Let me see here. So what we've got, I'll go to 662 first because we talked about this. What is this, detective?
So 662 depicts inside that laundry room that is actually facing east, away from the washer and dryer into the rest of that room there. And you see some luggage, a vacuum cleaner, and a laundry basket.
And so we heard testimony and we were asked about the laundry basket when it was sitting on top of the laundry machines during the entry pictures or initial photos. Do you remember those photos?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and now we've got a later photo. Do you remember if this is taken on 2/19? Does that sound about, or would the laundry basket have been moved sometime in that first day off of that wash machine?
I believe this photograph was taken on the 19th. That's
Okay.
correct.
And so we heard, when I say the 19th, I guess it's confusing as well, but we had photos, initials, we'll call them the entry from Miss Palma, the 18th into the evening, and then she comes back on the 19th in the morning and takes more photos. And then we have, during that portion of the day, the laundry basket here. So I just wanted, because it's been brought up, do you recall this laundry basket?
I don't personally. I just know, I've seen photographs of it on the washing or dryer. And
Tinnitus.
now I've seen this photograph here taken the following day.
Gotcha. And so this, what we're looking at, we haven't actually seen this part of Allison's house, but where is this in relation to the rest of the house?
So again, this is in that the southeast corner of her entire property. This is inside the laundry room, south of the kitchen. And if you were taking this photograph, those cabinets and the washer and dryer are behind you, and then you're looking east into the laundry room.
And we saw some pictures of this cabinet open with like a Swiffer inside of it.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And so I'm just gonna kind of zoom in here, but we see a laundry basket now. It's right here. Oh, that's too far. Autofocus. All right. So we can see that there's a laundry basket here.
Yes.
Okay. Anything of note that you're aware of that came from inside of that laundry basket?
I don't believe so. I know it had clothing in it, and I think it was some clothes was in one of those wash bags, like a mesh bag for delicates, but that's all I recall.
Okay. So that's 662. I'll put these over here. Running out of space. Now I'm going to ask you about something else that's come up already. And that's going to be $655 and $656. I'll start with $655. Can you see what that is?
Yeah, 655 are bottles and cans of beer on top of those two coolers that were outside on the patio.
Okay. And at this point, they've been removed from the coolers.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Because we saw some pictures earlier of these coolers, but were they inside at that time during the initial entry photos?
Yes, they were inside, floating in water.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna show you, a similar photo now, 656. See, right. Again, is this that back cooler with the bottles taken out?
Yes, in this photo, we're seeing those bottles and cans of those beers. Actually, in the upper left corner is that pool inflatable or two of those floating rings.
And when we look at the 655, for instance, can you see with, even from this photograph, the rust on some of the caps?
You can particularly on the I think it's either the Bud Light or the Coors Light in that second photograph on the caps. You can see some rust, and I believe as well on that Leinenkugel cap.
Right up here?
Yes, that's correct. Or the bottle behind the Leinenkugel, right?
Okay. And we have we can clearly see a Leinenkugel creamy dark, I think, or creamy daw or something
Yes.
in this photograph.
Yes,
Okay. Was there any summer shandy that you found in these coolers?
there was not.
It's kind of a mix of beers, though, fair to say.
Yes,
We see a Pabst Blue Ribbon,
yes, a
Bush.
couple of them.
couple of Bush, some Four Peaks.
Yes, that's correct.
And then going back to 656, do you see rust again on those back? You mentioned the Coors specifically.
Yes, that they, just because it was a silver cap, so it showed up a little bit better, you could definitely see it. And I believe there was even another picture that showed it a little bit better.
Okay.
So how long were the bottles of beer in the cooler for it to cause the rust?
And these are all the beers to your memory that came out of these coolers, or all the items that came out of these two coolers?
Yes,
Going back to 655. Okay.
So how long were they in there? Do we know?
Detective, at one point, we didn't get into this too much, and I'm not going to go down the road too far, but at one point were some of the plants in the backyard in Allison's home looked at and photographed?
yes, I believe if it wasn't the last day, it was on the 20th, and there were samples were taken and the plants were photographed.
And why is that?
At the time, again, we didn't know kind of what we didn't know, so we weren't sure. In addition, I believe we had some plant material that Dr. Ferentz had collected at autopsy, and we were trying to determine maybe the origin of where those pieces might have come from.
Ultimately, was there ever any connection made between the potential material on her body and the plants in her backyard?
There was not.
Okay. I want to ask you real quickly. We heard about the PM numbers, and as we're moving through the photo marker numbers, we've moved through most of them. One left, but they kind of went from started at photo marker 2 and then went up. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And why not start at number 1? Do you remember?
Initially, it's my recollection that Allison herself was actually going to be photo marker 1, like her body. And then for whatever reason, it just never was placed. So photo marker 2 or PM2, I believe, started with the dress that we recovered from her.
And we saw that photo marker already. So just to be safe, and so the jury's not wondering, there's not going to be a PM1 that they're missing somewhere along the way.
No, there will not be.
Okay. And now, Detective, again, we're jumping around, but some of these things have come up, and it goes to sort of part of your role in the case. As case agent, do you also kind of keep track of requests made to the labs?
Yes,
So you can make the requests yourself, or McWilliams could prior to you?
that's correct.
And what does that look like? Do you just walk over to the lab and have a conversation? Do you have to fill out a form, or what does that look like?
Right. So first, what we would do is we would evaluate everything that was collected as evidence, and then at that point make a decision between either between myself and other members of the unit, as well as the sergeant. In this particular case, I know our commander, or at the time maybe even Assistant Chief Pop, was involved, and we would just determine what do we think was the best things to test, in what order, what would give us the best evidentiary value, and then move on from there.
Okay. And so as we move into the case, it's important to note that these requests are not just made, they're not made as a matter of course, like just test items 1 through 5 and then 6 through 10 and then just get back to me. It's kind of there's a prioritization that's done along the way.
Right, I think it was an evaluation every time there was a lab request. In addition, we also had to weigh in logistical issues as far as what other cases the lab was working on, their manpower, their staffing, those things, and if anything else might have come up. We did have, back at that time, we did have other cases going on that we needed the lab's finite resources.
Okay. And my ultimate question kind of isn't as detailed as we will get to when it comes to all of the lab work done in this case that we're going to hear about into next week. But because it's come up already, hopefully it wasn't me. We heard about some shoe prints and some comparisons that Miss Smaltz did, and we heard about her testimony of the same brand, size, tread pattern of a shoe that she compared was inconclusive. But just so we're clear, ultimately any of the sort of shoe type prints that were done in this case were done by Miss Rains, who will testify this week.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I just wanted to make sure we weren't getting confused as to what Ms. Smaltz did and was talking about and what Ms. Rains will ultimately testify to this week. We talked about the chemicals in that storage closet in the garage. Do you remember that?
I do.
The pool chemicals. Can you tell me anything more about those chemicals in the garage? What did they kind of, anything about their appearance?
So in the cabinet on what would be the south side of the garage, there were two bottles. One was chlorinator liquid, and the other was muriatic acid. The closet itself appeared very dirty, as if maybe it's just not used very often. And the bottles themselves were about maybe a third to half full. They had dust on the top. They did not appear to have been used recently, but because of that overwhelming smell that we got from bleach or chlorine in the house, we felt it important to at least document and collect those as evidence.
And did Allison have a pool
She does.
person?
She did. Or I'm sorry, a pool person or a pool?
A pool guy.
She did.
All right, I'm gonna ask you a couple more questions, and then, well, we'll get as far as we get before the break. So, jumping around a little bit again. You respond to the scene all 4 days, but I'm gonna ask you about now the 21st. Going out to the scene on the 21st. That's the last day.
Yes, that was Saturday.
Tell me a little bit about your role that day.
So this would have been the fourth day consecutively that we'd been in the house. We had collected several different items, upwards of almost 80 different items, I believe. And at this point, it was, we were finishing up with as much scene work as we could do. It was also time that we were going to impound some of the larger items. I think the dining room table, the glass tables, that sectional couch, those things. So this was culminating with that. We were coordinating the logistics of how we were going to get those items into packaged and then into our property and evidence storage.
And so you said at this point, 80 items have already been taken out of the house. And are you referring to physical items at that point, or does that include swabs as well?
That's all photo markers. And I said upwards, maybe not all the way up to 80, but certainly well into the 60s and 70s of photo markers of items identified as evidence.
Okay. And some items were both swabbed at the scene and collected.
Yes, that's
Is that
correct.
right? Okay. And we'll hear about some of those in particular. But at this point on the 21st, now you're doing big stuff, including the closet doors?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to ask you specifically about the bottle, the whole bottle under the couch. How does that come to be found?
So after the 4 days, we've had the floors processed, we've had all the other things processed, and the couch, it's a sectional couch, so it's like L-shaped, and it had been moved forward and back to facilitate working in the living room and those things, but it had never been lifted up to collect, to actually take in as evidence. And so at that point, the decision was made, we're going to collect the couch, the entire couch as evidence. I don't recall, I know that Detective Lockerbie, I think Detective Carpenter was in there. We were all lifting the couch, and as we lifted it up on the floor underneath the couch, we discovered the broken neck of this Leinenkugel beer bottle.
So you guys didn't expect there to be anything under the couch, is that fair to say?
That's correct.
And when when you're moving the couch at some point back and forth, does anybody hear like any scraping noises or like oh gosh, there's some piece of glass we're dragging along the floor?
It would
Nothing to my
roll.
recollection, but again, it has several different, probably 10 at least feet, like 1 inch long metal or plastic feet on this couch. So as you're sliding it, you expect to hear something.
And so you pick up this
Good answer.
couch. Ultimately, we've heard testimony. There was prior testimony about somebody on the scene who has to ultimately take this bottle off the floor and move it into evidence somehow, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So tell me about that process.
So initially we'd found it. We tipped the couch back so we could get a better view of it. Photographs are taken 2 different ways. First off, without a photo marker in place, and then with a photo marker in place. And so that was done. I think it was photo marker 80 was used. And then at this point, it needs to be collected. We looked at that. It was my decision that I looked at it and said, I was wearing rubber gloves at that point, but I recognized the significance of this piece as being something that was missed, in my opinion, and needed to be tested. I had removed my gloves. I had put on a different pair of gloves that I carried in a small bag with me. And then I picked up the bottle by, unfortunately, as it turns out, placing my finger inside the bottle and lifting it up so the cap could be photographed, so the sides could be photographed, and then it was transferred into an envelope, and impounded as evidence.
And why do you say that? Unfortunately,
well, unfortunately, because it doesn't look as professional as what I've liked. I would have rather had something else been used, but it needed to be touched to picked up. And at that point, I figured the best place to touch that bottle would be inside it rather than on the outside in case there was fingerprints or anything that could be damaged.
and is there other things you might pick up in this way?
All items of evidence eventually get collected. Right now, another one of the things that we use are long either chopsticks or forceps, something like that. We just didn't have them at the time.
And so it has to be picked up off the floor. So you do it the way you described it. And you said that you took a glove out that you carry on you.
Yes, that's correct. At that time, I also had a small bag that I carried over my shoulder. That in it had a steno notebook, some buccal swabs that if I needed to collect a swab from somebody, as well as some rubber gloves. They were not the same. They were issued from the Scottsdale Police Department, but they were not the same gloves as what we were wearing at that time. I think we were either wearing black or purple at the time. These were tan, but in effect, they were the same quality. They were still rubber gloves. They had never been used before.
And just so we can all understand, are these rubber gloves you would use repeatedly anytime you needed to touch something, or were these kind of the same gloves we've heard about where you use them and you toss them after you use them?
No, they would be one time. And that's exactly why I changed my gloves, because I had gloves on, and realizing the significance of this piece said I needed to put on fresh new gloves in order to handle this piece of evidence.
And why was it so significant?
Because I had been touching other things. We had lifted the couch. I certainly didn't want to transfer or create any contamination for DNA or anything else.
And what about the glass? I meant was, that was a bad question. The changing of the gloves being significant, but what about the glass itself stood out to you as the point that you found it? Like, oh, there's a piece of broken bottle.
Throughout the entire scene, there were bits of broken glass. So there was a piece of glass by the dining room table. There was another one over by that kitchen island. And there were several very small shards scattered kind of throughout the kitchen. But there was nothing that we would look at to say was part of a label, maybe part of the base, the heavier glass on the base. So it appeared everything else was cleaned up. To the point where it could be identified. The closest thing I had was a piece of glass that had embossed that looked like it said something like Chippewa Falls, like maybe that was from a Leinenkugel bottle. But the fact that we found this one was significant because this was the first piece that was large enough to possibly contain a fingerprint to identify what it is, that it was a honey vice. The cap was still intact. So, and more importantly, if we'd missed it searching in this house for 4 days, I believe the suspect, if it would have been
Speculation, foundation.
Sustained.
So to be clear,
Okay, so he can't sit there and say, I think, I believe, I suspect this person would come back and have gotten it and thrown it away. You cannot hypothesize what it is that may have happened had he not have found it. And he knew better. He caught himself.
had by that point on the 21st, you were aware personally of the glass pieces all over the house.
yes, that's correct.
And having seen those glass pieces, did it appear that if you took all those glass pieces from the kitchen area, the pillar, everywhere that you found a glass piece, if you put them all together, that you would have a complete beer bottle?
No, absolutely not.
And so at this point, you find another piece of a beer bottle. Is it similar color to those pieces that you found around the house?
Yes, it's brown glass.
And you had mentioned one of the pieces had also had some raised lettering that indicated it might also be a Leinenkugel's brand beer.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Judges, might be a good time to stop. I have a few pictures to find.
Okay.
Might as well.
So ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and take that afternoon break. Please remember the admonition and we'll see you back in about 15 minutes.
And they do not come back, which is not surprising.
What's up?
No, I love you, guy, but I'm not going to get a copyright strike. We're going to jump to this. It's a short video, very short, and then I'm going to go and do a recap.
Corpus Christi, jury selection is underway in the trial of Uvalde CISD officer Adrian Gonzalez. He was indicted on child endangerment and abandonment charges for his response to the mass shooting at Robb Elementary in 2022. Hundreds of potential jurors were called, and throughout the day, dozens of them were dismissed. The judge expects the jury to be seated tonight and for opening statements to start tomorrow morning. That shooting sparked several changes to school safety and how Texas officers train for active shooter situations. Adam Bennett joins us now live in the studio. And Adam, since that shooting, state lawmakers filed several bills that aim to better protect students.
Quita, that included requiring an armed officer at each campus and setting aside more than $1 billion for school safety. Today, the head of the state's Law Enforcement Commission singled out two key laws changing how officers train and how often. On May 24th, 2022, it took officers 77 minutes to breach the classroom and kill the gunman at Robb Elementary in Uvalde. There were nearly 400 officers from several agencies and confusion over who was in charge. Since then, state lawmakers have tried to keep that from happening again.
This bill ensures that all responders are on the same page and ready to act from the start.
Don McLaughlin was Uvalde's mayor during the shooting. Now he's a state representative and the author of the Uvalde Strong Act. State lawmakers passed that bill, House Bill 33, unanimously last year. It requires crisis response plans from law enforcement agencies, yearly active shooter training at schools, plus police and EMS trainings. Also, first responders must file detailed reports after active shooter events.
We can't operate in silos. Everyone has to work together.
Greg Stevens heads Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. They make sure officers get that training. Stevens says HB 33 also requires extra training for law enforcement supervisors.
That was one of the key things, is we've got to make sure that when officers are rushing to the scene for one of these scenarios, that people that are in charge know what to do.
Stevens also singled out Senate Bill 1852 by Senator Pete Flores that passed in 2023. It requires 16 hours of active shooter and active attack training every 2 years through the Alert Center in San Marcos, on top of the basic alert training.
When you get to the really rural areas in the state, that it can be hard to find the training. But everyone across the state stepped up and made sure that people got that training.
Teamwork trying to prevent another Texas tragedy. And since the Robb Elementary shooting, several Uvalde parents and their state senator, Roland Gutierrez, have also pushed for tougher gun laws. That includes raising the age to buy the type of rifle used in that attack from 18 to 21. So far, they have not been successful. Quita.
All righty. Let me get me centered. I gotta figure out where I downloaded it. I have to fix something. Okay. So, where did it go? Where did it go? It is not where I wanted it. There it is. There it is. And home. Boom. I'm trying to find the file. It's supposed to be in home, but it's not showing up in home. All files. It's not showing. Let me go here. There we go. More than one way to skin a cat, y'all. And I know how to do that very well. Okay. Okay, well, it keeps working. And as soon as I look away, it works. I'm going to see if that how long that stays, because that top one wouldn't stand. Okay, guys, I want to go over this real quick. The Ian Mitcham case, over what we heard, what we saw. What am I looking for? I ain't looking for all that. Okay, well, I had the Ian Mitcham. Is that over here? It's just been my kind of day, y'all. What is this? Nope, that's not it. Let me get it back again, y'all. There has been some weird glitching. I have my notes. Just let me get it back. There it is. Okay. See, you just got to sometimes open it up and close it down and open it back up and it'll pop back up for you. Yep. Yes, sir. Okay. We're going to talk about Ian Mitcham Day 11. Okay. If you have any questions or comments, please use your fingers. Let the fingers do the walking. Let your fingers do the walking. All right. This trial feels like it's been going on all year. There's been a lot of breaks. There's been a lot of pauses, and it has not been fun. So, day 11. Centered on continued testimony. Key themes were crime scene proceedings. Investigators continued to walk the jury through how the scene was documented, photographed, and preserved. DNA evidence change was also a big deal. Testimony reinforced how the particular DNA profile was developed and why familial DNA became so necessary later. Leading up to the familial DNA break, the prosecutors emphasized the long gap between 2015 and the evidential match, setting the stage for later testimony about the controversial DUI blood sample covered in later days. Background content was reiterated. The court revisited the fact that Allison Feldman, was found beaten to death in 2015, and the case went cold until the DNA hit emerged. Sorry, guys. I took some allergy meds and now I'm getting sleepy. The evidence focus was quite intense, and particularly the partial DNA profile recovered from the scene. Investigators explained how it was obtained and why it was incomplete. No suspect identified for years, which prosecutors used to highlight the importance of the evidential familial DNA match. Scene conditions was important as well. The early observation were described in detail to establish reliability in the forensic process. While the search results didn't list names for day 11 specifically, the pattern of testimony around the DNA includes the crime scene technicians, early response investigators, forensic analysis involved in the initial DNA work. These aligned with the content of the live today. Day 11, well, today's kind of early to mid in the prosecution's case in chief. They're still building the forensic backbone, establishing the credibility of the crime scene, preparing the jury for later and more controversial DNA testimony. DUI, blood samples, familial DNA, court rulings from the Supreme Court. It is going to get nasty. So we do have some legal strengths and weaknesses, both on the prosecution and defense. You know I love to go through that. So let's go through that. Number one, the prosecution's strength. Well, the DNA evidence ultimately admitted. The Arizona Supreme Court ruled, and that's one thing that most people don't realize, is that this court case was hinged on the Supreme Court ruling on whether or not the DNA search had been violated Fourth Amendment. Had violated that Fourth Amendment, and the evidence is admissible under the inevitable discovery doctrine. This is a massive win for the state because it preserves the strongest link to Mitcham. The familial DNA match to Mitcham from 2017 search linked him to his brother to the crime of the scene with the DNA, which then led investigators to Ian Mitcham. This gives the state clear investigative path to present to the jury. The violent crime scene with physical evidence, a crime scene that contained DNA and forensic indicators that the state can use to build a narrative of personal violence attack. Long time shows persistence. The state can argue that the case went cold, but not because of weak evidence, but the technology had not caught up yet. Now, the prosecution's weakness is a Fourth Amendment violation. The Arizona Supreme Court explicitly held the sequencing Mitcham's DUI blood vial was an unconstitutional search. Even though the evidence is allowed, the defense can hammer the violation to undermine the trust of the investigation. The chain of custody questions, the DUI blood vial was supposed to be destroyed after 90 days, but it wasn't. This opened the door to negligence arguments, mishandling, improper retention, and even government overreach. But there's no direct eyewitness. This case is entirely circumstantial, relying heavily on the DNA and inference. The time gap, 2015, 2017, 2024. The long delay between Red Room DNA match and the trial itself allows the defense to argue memory decay, loss of evidence, and investigative tunnel vision. Now, the defense's strength, clear constitutional violation. The Arizona Supreme Court agreed that the DNA's sequencing was an unconstitutional search under the Fourth Amendment. However, this gives the defense some powerful narrative. The state broke the rules. If they violated his rights once, what to say they didn't do it again? The chain of custody problems. The second DUI vial was not destroyed as required and was used years later for DNA sequencing. Sorry. I don't have glasses on, sorry. This supports an argument of improper retention, unlawful search, and sloppy evidence handling. There's no direct evidence, no eyewitness, no confession, no video, and the defense can argue DNA with equals guilt, but DNA only shows presence, not random. Secondary transfer is very possible. Familial DNA is controversial. The defense can challenge the reliability, sustainability, the statistical interpretation, potential for false positives, and the privacy concerns. The SCOTUS petition, or SCOTUS, SCOTUS petition, highlights national disagreement over the inevitable discovery doctrine and how it could apply. This helps the defense frame the case as it can constitutionally shaky at best. Defense weakness. The DNA still comes in. Despite the constitutional violation, the Arizona Supreme Court allowed the DNA and inevitable discovery. This is devastating for the defense because DNA is the backbone of the state's case. The familial match is strong, but it did hit to the Mitcham's brother. It's difficult to explain that one away. It narrows the suspect pool dramatically. No alternative suspect. The defense had no strong third-party culprit theory. Without one, the reasonable doubt becomes hard to sell. Violent natures of crime. Jurors tend to be more emotionally affected by brutality, victim vulnerability, and home invasions. So in summary, the prosecution's strength, DNA admitted, familial match, strong forensic narrative, and persistence over years. Their weakness, constitutional violation, change of custody issue, circumstantial case, and long delay. The defense Fourth Amendment violation, chain of custody problems, no direct evidence, and constitutional DNA methods, controversial DNA methods. Well, their weakness is DNA admitted, strong familiar link, no alternative suspect, emotional impact of the crime. That is where we stand in this case as of now. Y'all, this is an interesting case. It's been a wonderful day. It's been a long day. I am so blessed to have you here with us. Thank you to the new people. Thank you to those who are returning. And even more importantly, for those who work with me from sunup to sundown, thank you to my mods. See you later, Miss Angela. Yeah, got you some teenagers to deal with. Tell that girl she better behave or Santa Claus won't come because she still got one more Santa gift coming her way. I wish I could go see you tomorrow because Friday I'm in Austin. I'm in San Angelo. So I need to pick a day and we got trials starting. So one of these days I got to come see you. Maybe I can come on Sunday. Let me check everything. They did set. I see it, Miss June, or whomever that was, Miss Angela. They set the jury in the Uvalde case. We will be in court first thing in the morning for the Uvalde case. And as you can see here, we are all ready for it. So y'all get your coffee, get your favorite snack. Don't worry, I won't be chewing gum all day. You're right. I normally don't chew gum, but lately with my allergies, I just can't get my ears to pop without chomping on some gum. Oh, it sucks. It's been horrible. Maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and the allergies will be better. I've been telling myself for over a week about that. Yeah, right. All right. So we do have a jury. I'm going to go make a short about it. So I will see y'all in the morning. Have a good day. Good night. Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. I hope you have an awesome day. Till next time, take care.